Think about just your daily life for a second. Managing finances online, accessing healthcare, so much of it relies on digital systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, well, often these critical systems aren't run by the government directly, but by private companies working with them. So their digital security. It's incredibly important.
Paramount, really.
Which brings us right to today's deep dive. We're looking at a new piece of legislation, the Federal Contractor Cybersecurity Vulnerability Reduction Act of 2025.
HR 872, right. Just passed the House.
That's the one. Passed the House, now it's headed to the Senate. So our mission today is to unpack what this bill actually means and why it matters to you. Even if you don't think about government contracts much, it's about who's ultimately responsible for keeping your digital interactions safe.
Exactly. This isn't just some internal government policy adjustment. It's fundamentally about securing the digital supply chain, the infrastructure that supports services you probably use every day. We'll try to break it down simply.
Okay, so let's start with the what. What's the core change here?
Well, at its heart, the act is pushing companies that contract with the government to have formal, clear ways to find and fix cybersecurity weaknesses in their own systems.
So like embedding a continuous safety check.
Pretty much. A safety check for the digital backbone supporting government operations, which, again, often involves these outside companies.
Right. So who exactly are we talking about? Who falls under this? Is it just the huge defense contractors?
Good question. The bill calls them covered contractors, and no, it's definitely not just the big players.
Okay.
The scope is, well, quite broad. It covers contractors with deals over a certain amount. The bill mentions around $150,000 as a threshold. But more importantly, it applies to any company that uses, operates, manages, or maintains federal information systems for an agency.
Okay, so that could be what? Like companies handling veterans' benefits data?
Exactly. Or managing public service portals, securing critical infrastructure data, things that directly impact people's lives and access to essential services.
Got it. So how does the bill actually make them find and fix these problems? What's the mechanism?
The core requirement is something called a vulnerability disclosure policy, or a VDP.
A VDP, okay.
Yeah, it basically means these contractors have to set up an official way, like a specific contact point or web form, to receive reports about potential security flaws.
Reports from who?
From anyone who finds one. Ethical hackers, security researchers, maybe even just a technically savvy member of the public.
Okay, so it's an open channel.
Right. And crucially, they can't just receive the report. They need a documented plan to actually assess and fix the vulnerability, to remediate it.
And these policies, they can't just whip something up, right? There are standards.
Absolutely. They need to align with guidelines from NIST, that's the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
The big one for tech standards.
Exactly, the gold standard in the U.S. And also international best practices, specifically ISO standards 29147 and THR 111.
ISO. Okay, what do those cover?
Those ISO standards basically lay out how organizations worldwide should handle vulnerability disclosure from the moment a flaw is found to how it's responsibly reported and fixed. It's about the whole life cycle.
Okay, so standards are set. How quickly does this need to happen? Is there a deadline?
Yes, and it's actually fairly quick. Key agencies think OMB, CISA, the DoD, they have 180 days after the bill becomes law to review and recommend updates to the main government contracting rules.
The FAR and DFARs.
That's right, the Federal Acquisition Regulation and its defense supplement. They need to figure out how to weave these VDP requirements into the actual contract language. Then the SR Council, the body that manages those regulations, gets another 180 days to actually make those changes official. So things could move relatively fast in government terms.
Is there any wiggle room? Can agencies opt out?
There is a waiver provision, but it seems pretty limited. An agency could potentially waive the requirement for, say, national security reasons or specific research projects.
But they can't just do it quietly.
No, definitely not. They have to notify the relevant congressional committees within 30 days if they issue a waiver. So there's oversight. It strikes a balance, between the security mandate and some operational flexibility.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the listener. Why should someone who doesn't work for one of these companies, or even for the government, care about this act?
Because the security of government systems and the vast amounts of sensitive data they hold or process through these contractors affects everyone. Think about it.
Yeah.
This bill is really strengthening a critical link in the whole chain of our national cybersecurity. It's a proactive step. It's about reducing the risk of data breaches that could expose your personal information or disruptions to services you might rely on, tax systems, benefit portals, emergency alerts.
So it builds resilience, trust.
Exactly. It's about building more trust and resilience across our entire digital ecosystem, not just within the walls of government agencies.
So, wrapping up, this federal contractor, Cybersecurity Vulnerability Reduction Act of 2025. It seems like a pretty significant move to shore up the digital foundations that support government services, including those provided through partners.
It really is, and it leads to a bigger thought, maybe something for you to consider. How does a law like this show a growing focus, not just on physical borders, but on our digital borders and the security of the whole supply chain? And maybe more personally, how does the cybersecurity strength or weakness of a contractor you've never heard of potentially impact the safety and privacy of your own digital life? Something to think about.